Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Season 2 of the Le Mans Ultimate here at RaceFace.Pro. And this is going to be a wild one. It's going to be an exciting one. And Cameron de Bastos joining us back in the box. The one, the only, the fastest out there. Cameron, welcome back to Le Mans Ultimate Season 2 here at RaceFace. And I got to say, konnichiwa from Fuji.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen, and good evening, everybody out there in the grandstand. It is great to be back for our second season of our LMU Championship, and what better way to kick it off than in the land of the rising sun. We are at Fuji, as Stephen said, in Japan, at the base of Mount Fuji. Really excited. Last season was a bit of a difficult one with rain everywhere, making it quite difficult for some of our drivers after that, as that was the first time I've actually experienced wet weather conditions with these cars in the LMU environment. So it's going to be quite interesting, and I must say, Stephen, I'm quite interested, quite fascinated in what cars we're going to have out today. Between the last time we saw these cars on track and up until now, there has been some changes. New manufacturers have joined. The likes of the Valkyrie has joined our hyperclass field, as well as the likes of the Mercedes has also been released. So I'm kind of curious to see what car has been chosen by our drivers and how they will perform. Last season was the Peugeot. Is the Valkyrie going to be the underdog? If it has been chosen, we will see.
Well, that being said, it's going to be a close one for the championship. Lots of talking in the background of who's going to be able to step it up. Some new names coming to the party here at RaceFace.Pro, along with our new sponsor, EG Evolved. A big shout out to our sponsors returning: SBR, Rhino Utility, Virtual Motorheads, and Simulator Cave. Once again, at the end of the year, a 16,000 Rand rig, courtesy of Simulator Cave, will be given out to drivers in both this championship, ACC and iRacing. It's a lucky giveaway draw, so it doesn't mean you have to win the thing, but you have to be there for the entire season to be able to score a entry into that draw. And I've got to say, I'm quite looking forward to that and seeing how it's going to work out. But that being said, qualifying is underway, and let's head down to the track. As we head to the track and get some of the sights and sounds. First one is one of our new drivers coming in, the likes of Andre Matike coming in and having a bit of fun with us here at RaceFace.Pro. Fantastic to see, but also interesting to see BMWs coming to the returning party. Also, top of the board, Chris Stolz has put in the time, taking back another fight after losing out the championship to his own teammate last season. He's hoping to make a big impact, returning with the Peugeot once again, maybe hoping for lightning to strike twice. Cameron?
Yeah, I mean, Peugeot was a very, very good car in the hands of Crystals last season, so I think I'm not surprised to have him rep the line again there from the French team there. However, I am quite shocked to see other drivers who have moved up from our GT3 field into the hypercar field, and that's the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen and Brandon Kruger. These two have shared an amazing championship battle last season and brought it down to the very, very wire. And I believe it was Barkhuizen that took the championship. I must have a correction, can't remember because that feels like ages ago. But they have moved up in the Ferrari, hoping to take the fight to the likes of Stalls, as well as Jan Kleinans, both Delta Negative teammates, hoping to again lock out that two top spots for our hyperclass field. But as we spoke, just looking back into our GT3 class, I've seen a few Aston Martins, and then also there's that beautiful Mercedes in the hands of Jeff Leroux. It's absolutely a monster of a car, Stephen. I mean, me and you spoke about this, me and you drove it, and you like it, I like it. Very, very good car, very pointy if you use the brakes well enough on it, and you're able to just get that car pointed in. For a big monster, a 2020 edition, it is still a beast and likes to fight it out here.
Well, this is the newly updated one, so it's actually running into the 2024 chassis spec. But fun fact about the Mercedes-AMG GT3 being one of the newer cars that's come out, because Le Mans Ultimate is now 1.0, successfully out of beta, moving in to the big leagues, is this car actually has its gearbox in the boot of the car. So it's not quite where you think it is. It's actually in the back. And that sandwiches the engine and the gearbox to the driver. So trying to keep it mid-engine, yet it is a front-engine rear-wheel drive car. That being said, however, Crystals leads out the pack with a 124.039. Dion Cup leads out the GT3 field in the Ferrari 296 with a 138.1 around the circuit. He is only a fraction away from LaRue with 0.08 behind. I mean, a 138.2 was set by LaRue to try and get a little bit closer. Bego Krobler returns. He's also in the Mercedes. Seems like a lot of drivers have migrated to the newer car to have a bit of fun, but it is the BMW of Jan Blicknote that puts himself into second place and hoping to fight it out. 6 hypercars will be racing, but 22 GT3s will be fighting it out at the top of the order.
There's absolutely a big field of GT3s running out there, and if I take a look at the timing tower, I believe, if my memory serves me right, it is only the likes of Jan Blicknote, the only returning driver from Season 1 to have stuck with his very own, his car choice, with many of the drivers jumping for the Mercedes, and then also the very lone Lamborghini there. Very brave choice for that car to be trying to run it out there, but the likes of Dion Cup. Oh, and also Michael Verhoeven, I forgot about that. He has returned also with that beautiful Aston Martin Vantage and really trying to fight it out among these top guys. But the likes of Dion Cup switching from the Aston, I believe, all the way over to the Italian brand. As just as I say that, he goes and takes the top again from the likes of Michael Verhoeven. So currently is British versus Italian battle in qualifying, with the Aston in second and the Ferrari just snatching away that podium, well, the pole position starting place here at Fiji. But looking down, it's not as many BMWs as we had in the previous season. It's a much more mixed grid, which makes my heart very happy and brings a smile to my face, as it is not just the top runners that's going to fight it out with this BMW. It seems a bit more balanced, but the same cannot be said for our hypercars, as Crystals resumes where he has left off, leading the pack, but running that number 1. Steve, I think our memory might be wrong, as I do believe number 1 is reserved for the defending champion.
That's it. Number 1 is reserved for the champion to take it out. But Dion Cup was actually racing the Ferrari last season. He wasn't able to get the victories that he wanted out of it to get at the top of the order, but was fighting out for first place. Another returning driver to the hypercars is the likes of Jean Verveers. Jean Verveers hoping to fight it out at the top. He's lying in 5th place, right ahead of Jaco Kutzer, the only Toyota interesting enough to come into the party. So we've got 1 Peugeot, 1 Toyota to have a bit of fun. But taking a look over to our virtual grandstands, we have got the Dixie Killer coming in and joining us and having a bit of fun. Now, I know there's going to be a little bit of question because I asked the very question. You've asked the question, Cam. What on earth the bars on the side of the timing by the numbers? Why are they there? Because we do see Stolz is number 1, and he has got the number 1 on his car, but he's got 2 bars, and Kruger has got 87, but he's got 1 bar just kind of blocking out there. Can you give the viewers at home what that actually means?
Well, Stephen, we've asked the LMU devs for their assistance in terms of what they said, and it's been brought up as being a placeholder. So as you can see, we are now LMU has enabled us our drivers to run custom numbers. So in order to align the names correctly, they have placed those white bars as placeholders. Now, I'm not going to criticize the devs, but I mean, as someone who in his daily job works with devs and designs UIs, why white? I don't know why, but it is something that I brought up, and hopefully it might be something that might be changing soon. But for our fans in the virtual grandstand and everybody watching, it's not a bit of a glitch in the matrix. It's just all to keep things nice and pretty in terms of the names being below one another and doesn't look like a 1-year-old, or not a 1-year-old, a first grader has written the names all willy-nilly. But take a look back at our GT3s as Bego Krobler puts down an impressive time of a 137.7, only 0.2 behind the likes of Dion Cup. Dion Cup coming out swinging and showing the prowess that he has in a Ferrari, the only top Ferrari within our top 5. And then right behind him is again the British machine in the likes of our Aston Martin Vantage in likes of Michael van Rooyen, and followed closely behind is the BMW of Matejka and then Bego Hrobler in what car? In the Mercedes. I couldn't even see that logo there. Followed closely behind by the likes of Oosthuizen, who makes up our top 5 in our GT3s, who rocks a very interesting livery. And now, Stephen, this is something we spoke about in Season 1, when it was a bit of a teaser for us. Custom liveries.
Yep.
And I think we're seeing our first livery there in the likes of Carl Oosthuizen with that very interesting BMW. But take a look at this Iron Lynx Lamborghini. I love the Lamborghini, and I love the Iron Lynx team, especially their female team called the Iron Dames. Number one supporter here, always supporting during the actual 24 hours of Le Mans. Absolutely love them. But here we have Jeff Leroux in that beautiful Grove-coloured racing Mercedes.
Hopefully you're not dropping a car on someone's foot, however. But that being said, yes, drivers now have the ability to have custom liveries on their cars by utilizing the RacePro subscription with the likes of the LMU. But that being said, we've got a lot of drivers. 22 GT3 cars, 6 hypercars. It means it's going to be quite busy out there. And so far, the newest driver to the grid lineup, the likes of Andrej Mataka coming in and putting himself third. And take a look, Michael van Rooyen, who was at the back of the field last season, 0.008 in qualifying, right behind Dion Kopp. He set a 137.767 as his time, and Dion Kopp a 137.759. Bernard Barkhuizen, jumping out of the GT3 class, was trying to get to grips with this car. He is currently lying second behind Chris Stoll's, 0.2 of a second behind, but he has got his own teammate trying to chase him down. Brandon Kruger looking to put the hammer in. Brandon Kruger taking up the mantle of heading out the OG sim racing team after taking that over from Tristan Herb. So well done on the promotion, but the pressure now on, considering he's getting beaten out by his own teammate in a new class. Not quite getting to grips with the car as yet, but still, there is 2 minutes left on the clock for drivers to get their foot in it, to put themselves on the top of the board. Jaco Kutzer lies 6th in class and still need to try and figure out. From our GT3s, however, it is Dion Kopp, followed by Michael van Rooyen. Eston Pretorius, also a new driver to the field in that Lamborghini. Andrej Mataka, along with Bego Hrobler. Jeff Leroux in 6th. 7th is Carl Oosthuizen, and Johan Blicknote is out on track. Viertier Berta lies in 9th, and Dennis Gillett returns to the circuit. He's in 10th place. He's ahead of Jason Farmer, Chris Heineke, Dane Brown, a new name to the grid as well. Ulrich Kleinans comes into the field. Grant Leclerc comes into the field. These are new names coming out and showing what they can do. I've got to say, quite happy about that. Jody Seidman switching out from the Toyota that he was driving last season into the Aston Martin. Mike McGear makes his sim racing return after a very, very, very long hiatus. So it's good to see him out there. And Mr. Mouton is out returning as well. Good to see him joining in the fray. Still 45 seconds to go. Still lots of times to have a bit of fun. And this is going to be a great one. Massive welcome to all of our listeners, all of our petrol heads to the virtual grandstands. Always fantastic to see there. Stingers Racing coming out and enjoying lots of support for the likes of Ulrich Kleinans coming in as well. Absolutely phenomenal to see so many of our fans returning and new to RaceFace.Pro to come and see plenty of the racing action here at Fuji for round 1 of Le Mans Ultimate here at RaceFace.Pro for Season 2.
No, absolutely, Stephen. A great amount of support there for the likes of Ulrich there. But now we have to be very, very cautious as the likes we have Jan Kleinans and Ulrich Kleinans. And no, they're not related. 2 different families, completely very, very different. But you have also mentioned the likes of our GT3 car drivers of last season who are now in our hyperclass car. And the hypercar is definitely a different beast to manage as we see the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen running wide and abandoning his lap. but it is going to be very, very interesting to see how these cars handle it. But the likes of our newcomer in our GT3, in the likes of Mateka, all the way from Czechia, joining us here in RaceFace.Pro. So we have crossed boundaries and have reached our international audience, and it's great to have him here racing with us and hoping to do the Chechen country proud.
That also being said, the big change that's coming in now that qualifying is underway, no longer are we just racing a simple 45-minute race. No, no, no. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get ready for this. You asked for it, drivers asked for it, and, well, we've got endurance cars nonetheless. We are going to be racing a full 60-minute race. That includes pit stops to be done and drivers having to think out the box with their strategies. This is all going to be wild. This is absolutely new, and it's going to be testing who can push themselves that little bit further, who has got the stamina to go the extra mile, and who is ready to take on Le Mans Ultimate in the way it's meant to do. And our sprint race, as we build up to, well, sooner or later, running a full multi-class endurance here on LMU. But that brings us to the end of qualifying. Drivers all set, and we're looking to have an absolute huge amount of fun, and it's going to be a crazy, crazy season, that's said. But Cameron, I've got to say, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, BMW, Mercedes in our top 5 of the GT3s, Peugeot, Ferrari, and Toyota for the top 5 of our hypercars. This is going to be a bit of a wild one, and we are starting to hear that drivers need to start making their way to the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be a great, great one with the likes of the Italian brands sandwiching that lone British P2 in the GT3 class, followed by our German manufacturers. But let's take a quick look at our starting order for our first race here at Season 2. On first row, we had the likes of Chris Tolles with Bernard Bocke, followed by Brandon Kruger, and the likes of Jan Kleinans. In the third row, we have John Verveers, and then also, I didn't see that sixth name there. Then finally, we have our GT3s with Dejan Kapp leading the way, and alongside him, Marco van Rooyen. And then we got the siege of the only Lamborghini with Esteban Pretorius and Ojais Mateshka from Czechia in the second row. In 11th place on our grid, we have Bego Krobler, and next to him, Jeff Leroux in that Mercedes. And then the lone McLaren, Dennis Gillett, all the way in 13th, followed by Carl Oosthuizen. On row 8, we have the likes of Jan Blugnoot in the returning BMW, followed by the likes of Vieter Buerta in the Aston Martin. And then our first custom livery in the form of Jason Farmer, and next to him, the likes of Chris Heineke, in fourth to be reckoned with in the ACC side. Next up on row 10, we've got Dane Brown in another Mercedes, and right next to him, another Aston Martin. And then all the way in row 11, we've got Grant Leclerc in an Aston Martin, followed by JD Geldenhuys. And then finally, we have the likes of Arno Kraus in a Lexus and Conrad Martin in another McLaren. Not many McLarens, but more than what there was last season. Then finally, in third, we've got Gideon Bernardi, a new name, followed by Jody Sierman. And as the cars get ready for the final one, we've got Mike McGeer and Gio Maton, two newcomers to the series, and hoping to make their mark here at our LMU Championship.
Well, that being said, making their way through, it is going to be Chris Tolles and Brandon Kruger to let the roar of the engines go. Bernard Barques and Jan Kleinans will be right behind them. The split starting to happen between the hypercars and the GT3. Nerves starting to build up as we get ready to go under starters orders. Chris Tolles looking to get the jump off the line. Ready, steady. And Brandon Kruger trying to line himself up right on point for the start, hoping to just get the lunge on Chris Tolles around the outside as we are green, green, green here at Fuji. And it's an absolute move for Brandon Kruger getting off the line. Chris Tolles immediately tucks him behind. Bernard Barkhuizen trying to stay in the fray as well. Late on the brakes into turn 1 for our hypercars. 3 wide, however, as Chris Tolles is the sandwich in the middle. And this is turning into quite a brilliant start for the hypercars. Back into our GT3s, it's Michael van Rooyen. Pretorius up into second. Take a look at Dejan Kapp trying to force Andre out on the inside to hold him at bay. Bego Krubler slots in behind to keep the pressure on. And unfortunately, it is all the way back for Blichnote as he gets chucked down the field, waiting for an opportunity. Back up to the Hypercars. It is a Ferrari 1-2 that leads out the field. Crystal's running in third. Peugeot not having the legs at the moment compared to Brandon Kruger and Bernard Barkhuizen, who are looking to relive their fights in the GT3s. Crystal's immediately trying to close up on them.
Yeah, quite interesting that well, a great start there from the beginning for the likes of Kruger, and then Crystal's caught a bit napping there, but now I'm quite curious to see what a stewarding team might say something else, because that was quite an interesting start, as normally it's the leader that leads the way, or the side by side, but Brandon Kruger able to get a better jump. But we do know that the Ferrari has gotten a great power train system in it, and just engages all four wheels, and has a great boost there. But take a look at our GT3s. Michael van Rooyen picking up and just leading the way. Dion Cup unfortunately not having a good lap there, and right behind him we've got our flying Chechen, not the flying Finn, but closing down on that Ferrari in that BMW, and that BMW we do know has an immense amount of top end speed. Trying to cover off the inside line is Dion Cup, but that will not be enough. Drawing alongside is Mateshka, hoping to get it laid on the brakes, keeping on the outside. Cup holding it, and just hits his brake perfectly, but looking for the switchback is the likes of Andre, not being able to get it. But be careful, gents. Lurking in the shadows is the likes of Bego Krobler in that Mercedes, hoping to catch up where he might have left off. But side by side in a very fast left-hander, very brave there. Might not have happened, but here comes Bego Krobler picking up the pieces that might be left there, and as the likes of Andre just losing time to the likes of Cup, and that gap will grow. But right behind the Bego Krobler already being hunted down by the likes of Carl Oosthuizen in that multicolored BMW. Oh boy, it's going to be a lot of battles up and down the field, but the one to watch would be right here.
Now we'll take a look. Carl Oosthuizen trying to force the pass around the outside, late on the brakes as they send it into one of the tight spots of the circuit. Heavy braking on the back end to try and get the car sorted out. And this is where it's just follow the leader on the way through. You can take a look on the inside through the left-hander, but you got to watch out for the drive. And immediately, Jeff LaRue trying to get into the fray as well. Take a look further behind. Dennis Gillett, along with Johan Blichnote, trying to get into the fray. Jason Farmer hanging in for the Griffin Sim Racing team. And Vietia Buerta coming into the fray as well. He's hoping to put the hammer down early on and get into the fight. Ulrich Kleinons, along with Jody Siderman, right onto the back of him. JD Gildenace in the Lexus, trying to put some pressure on as well, as we do see the cars starting to make their way through. We did see, however, Pretorius sitting in pits. Pretorius is, well, nowhere to be found, and I think a possible retirement for our GT3s.
4 minutes into the race, unfortunately, and might have been a mechanical issue with the car, and just saying, listen, we have to park the car, push it into the box and get it done. But Stephen, as you spoke earlier, this is not just a very short format of sprint racing anymore. It's an hour race. Yes, it might still be everybody giving it all they got for an hour, and it might seem as a sprint, but it also transforms into the mindset of an endurance. You don't want to really go and push the car too much into early and damage your tires. Yes, we do have the likes of a stop now. Being with a longer format, it forces you to have to go and pit stop, but now it's going to be me and you are both normal, or are used to what the old strategy was of pitting early and getting that undercut, or pitting later at the very last moment in order to get a bit of a overcut on the other drivers. Now this is normally what we see the likes of Bego Krobler, Bernard Barkhuizen, Brandon Kruger would have done in our GT3 series. However, this is a completely new sim to them. What would you say would be the pit strategy regarding this? Would they just rather test out the water before applying their normal strategy, or maybe going for a completely new strategy?
Honestly, I think it's going to be planning out your strategies, trying to figure out what is going to be the big game plan here. Because you don't want to push too hard, you're still trying to get used to the competition, used to the cars as well, and also the track is quite hot out there here in Fuji, so it is a difficult situation. Jason Farmer, however, needing to get out of the slipstream. He's got the pace over Dennis Gillett immediately. Vietia Buerta utilizes the slipstream as well to try and get the run. you got to remember, if you're caught in the slipstream, you're getting no air to the brakes, you're getting no air to the front nose, which means you lose downforce, those brakes are getting too hot, brake fade starts to kick in, and you are starting to starve yourself of that little bit more pace, especially in the more turbocharged vehicles. As we keep an eye on our GT3s, we cannot forget the hypercars have just made their way past first of the GT3s. It's Brandon Kruger, Bernard Barkhuizen, and cutting their way through. That was Chris Heineke, who got swallowed up by our hypercars field. He was the first to go into the pits early on after needing a bit of repair work done on the start, but now he is the first GT3 that got swallowed up. Likes of Johan Verveers and Jaco Kutzer are looking to get into the fray of one another. They have to navigate through this traffic. It might be a little bit slower, but it does put you offline. And as you can immediately see, Jaco going offline, losing a lot of momentum, wasn't able to pull it back and lost our second. But question is, what are the hypercars going to do when they start getting into the bigger parts of this race? When the GT3s start becoming a little bit more of a problem?
And it's going to be definitely something else. I mean, as you see the inside cover there by Andre Matejka from the likes of Bego Grubbe, who's stuck to his under that big rear wing of the BMW, covering off that inside line there. But it is going to be quite difficult. Me and you both know that Fuji is not a circuit that makes passing very, very easy. It's long sweeping turns and then very, very sudden, hard left or right handers, and then also that very tricky chicane that most drivers last season messed up on. But that's also because of the monsoon weather that we experienced, which is quite usually happens here in Japan, especially when it's racing. So we got lucky to have some nice sunshine rain here, but we never know what the future is going to be in terms of our weather prediction. But here we see the likes of Bagel Grobler making a move there on Matejka, but look out behind you guys. The likes of Oosthuizen is licking his lips, hoping to pick up the straps if these two have made contact and spins one another. But this is a four-way fight only for P3, as the likes of Michael Verhoeven have booked the ticket and say goodbye. But Matejka sends it up the inside, pushes Bagel Grobler wide. That is going to be something that the stewards might want to look at if they have picked that up, but we'll have to see. And ew boy, that has caused the likes of Oosthuizen to slip past the likes of Bagel Grobler. Bagel Grobler losing not one but two positions, and right behind them is the likes of the White Grove
in the Merc,
Jeff LaRue
chasing him, and Bluchnote also coming into the fray. So they're a little bit offline, has gone and swallowed him up. And take a look at the fight as Kyle Oosthuizen returns the favor to Matejka, and now bringing back Matejka and Grobler to battle it out with one another. Absolutely tremendous racing at the early start of our GT3 field, but this is going to be interesting for the likes of Bluchnote. Late on the brakes, right up to the rear of Bego Grobler's car. Matejka getting a little bit moved out of the way there by Bego Grobler, and Bluchnote now looking to get into the fray. No one having the advantage on one another, but I am going to turn focus back to our hypercars that have started working their way through the entirety of the GT3 field. Is Brandon Kruger going to get past the Red Bull colours, and Bernard Barkhuizen looking to join, and right on the back of them, these two are going to be brawling with each other, well, trying to get through the field. This is not going to work out, however, as the Aston Martin, the 420, in 11th position. That is Jody Cinnamon, who got swallowed up in the fight and allowed that little move going and bringing in likes of Dane Brown into the fray as well. So Jody Cinnamon put in the middle, no ideal line, and unfortunately Brown also causing a little bit of a hold-up for the likes of Johan Kleinert. I mean, it is frantic out there to try and get the passes done immediately. Huge send on the inside. Bernard Barkhuizen trying to take the run through. They got caught up behind the GT3 field. Big sends on Vietia Buerta, who unfortunately got shifted out of the way. Bernard Barkhuizen and Brandon Kruger are absolutely brawling with one another and not making it easy for the GT3s out there as they fight out for first in the hypercar and first overall. But they are starting to close up on Bluchnote, LaRue, Matejka, who are also fighting into turn one. Bernard Barkhuizen and the likes of Kruger constantly door to door, and now got to try and work their way through the GT3 field fight.
Stephen, some very, very rubbing and knocks there, as it's very, very brave. But these two hypercars need to remember that they have to be cautious on where they pass these cars. Yes, you're the faster class car, but that also means the responsibility of safety passing falls on you. They might need to turn it back down, just turn it down a bit, saying, guys, calm down. If I was the crew chief, I would tell them, contact spin!
Have the likes of Kruger into the wall. And unfortunately, we'll be picking up a bit of damage there as the rest of the GT3 field comes through. That's put it to bed. But now this is going to be an interesting climb back up through the order as Kruger has just got the bit between his teeth. Blichnote dealing with LaRue on the back of him. And take a look as we can see the likes of Jean Fafiers trying to get past in the Toyota as he makes an easy door opening for the likes of LaRue to try and get the run on the BMW. That is Blichnote dealing with LaRue as much as possible. Right behind them is Macheka, who is trying to get into the fray as well. It is a fight up and down through the field, and gotta say, I'm loving the door-to-door racing. But you did point out, you got to be cautious, you got to be courteous in the faster cars, not to land up in big impacts. Brandon Kruger is our DNF, unfortunately, along with our GT3s of Mouton and Pretorius, who did not get across the line to start their first lap. That's unfortunately 3 cars out, but Kruger out of this race officially. That has left it to Bernard Barkes and the Crystals, who are the closest between the hypercars.
Unfortunately, it might have sustained too much damage on that front suspension in order to repair it enough in the pit stop, and would have cost them a lot more time. However, there is still a long series or first season to go ahead, as it's only the first race. But Stephen, as I said, drivers need to be cautious here, because if you are overzealous and just try to make moves, especially on the slow class cars, you will end up probably in the steward's office, and the stewards will wave their finger at you saying, listen, you're the faster class, you have to be cautious and not make any of these risky moves. Same goes with our GT3 cars. You have to be mindful of what car is coming up behind you. Is it the same class car, or is it a hyperclass car, and what their overlap is? Are they on your rear wheel? Then rather just back out and let them through. But you mentioned earlier there's the Red Bull colors. That's not Red Bull colors, that is the Team Redline colors there, funny enough. And on the side is a little Max Verstappen. So I know which car I'm going to like for the rest of the season, but that's just because I like Max, and that's just who I am. But I really hope
that's Ulrich Kleinert. It's Ulrich Kleinert that's behind the wheel, along with Dan Brown trying to chase him down. I mean, 2 new drivers to the field.
Weaving. Got to be careful there, Ulrich.
I think it's going and just saying a quick hello to the camera. Is focus down and watch out, because Dan Brown's going to chase you down. I've got to say, GT3 field has been quite a mighty one to duke it out with, and these 2 new names to the grid are starting to put on a great show as they fight out for 12th and 13th in position. Then we've got the likes of, a little bit further up, is Bernard Barkhuizen with Crystals, the defending champion, on his rear tail, trying to push a little bit further up the road. Stills looking for the inside line, couldn't make it work. Bernard Barkhuizen, unfortunately, not able to pick up the pace, possibly a bit of damage on his car. And also, our Chechen now going and fighting out against one of the drivers that does race quite often around the world, Jason Farmer of the Griffin Sim Racing team, going and fighting for their battle. So far, some great racing being had, and drivers pushing as hard as they can. But this is an hour's worth of racing, and they will need to do a pit stop. When do you think this is going to be the right time to get into the pits with these cars? As we do see the likes of Jason Farmer deep on the inside, trying to get the pass done. Unfortunately, the Brazilian colors on this BMW is not quite getting the pace over the Skechers colors. As we see Jason Farmer fight it out with Machechka down the straightaway. And that is just open cards for Vietia Buerta.
And absolutely, Stephen, and thank you for just reminding me there with those colors on Jason Farmer. That is a special livery, the special edition livery that the WRT team did run in Sao Paulo this year for WC. So it's not a custom livery, but it's great to see it out here on circuit. But some bumping there, door-to-door racing. Matejka getting that South African welcome of saying, welcome to RaceFace.Pro. We do not make it easier no matter what, but it is some close racing, and Matejka not having the race that he wanted, started in the top 5 all the way down into 8th from early knocks that he has sustained with other drivers. But Stephen, we have spoken about the liveries that are currently being run here, and I must say there's one livery that really is just beautiful, and it's quite nice that it's being run here in Japan, and that's the like of our very alone Toyota by the likes of Jean Verfiers, who is running the special edition Japanese livery that was run by the Toyota number 7 at Le Mans this year, and it's great to see him running it here. Absolutely love it. It's a retro grade and nod to the very first Toyota hypercar or prototype that they've built. I believe that was the GT1 class. Stephen does stand to correct me if he can recall it, but it is a very beautiful car, and I think it celebrates 40 years of Toyota racing in endurance championship, endurance racing, and it is absolutely a beautiful livery. It's almost like the cherry blossoms that grow here in Japan. But take a look back at our GT3 field. Matejka just losing out as Jason Farmer gets a snap there, which allows the likes of Vietti put the side contact, gets pit maneuvered and gets turned around. Yellow flags out there in the final corner. This has allowed the likes of Andre to sneak on by, and Jason Farmer losing that position. I wonder what happened there. Maybe moved across a bit with the car not being behind him entirely, and just unfortunately spun him around there. But we do see the likes of this red line car putting a bit of a gap on the likes of Dane Brown and really putting on the legs there. But no rear wing for the likes of Vietti Buerta. A crumpled up nose. That car is not going to turn. It's not going to stop. It is not going to work. It now looks like a road version, and contact again.
Mono Kraus, who unfortunately had understeer at that moment. Vietti Buerta getting a little bit of side on. He's trying to limp the car around, and honestly, I give him his due. You know, for a driver not wanting to give up, he doesn't want to be the one quitting out of the race. He wants to see it through to the end. This is very well done, but you can see it's an absolute beast to try and drive around. As we do take a little bit further back, this is Gideon Bernardi going and fighting out with Mike McGear out towards the back of the field. They're going to be catching up to Vietti Buerta. Chris Heineke going and running a little bit further back than them. But interesting enough, there is going to be repairs to the cars, as that's a Mercedes looking a little bit sorry for itself. And that, unfortunately, is Jeff LaRue, who was running a little bit higher up. He's got rear end damage and needing some repair work. So a couple of cars not looking the best at the moment for round number 1. Gonna get some repair work done to them. And drivers, unfortunately, will have to wait for the teams to replace spares on these cars before they can get back out onto the circuit. Not ideal circumstances right now, but it seems it's been rather challenging. Back up towards our hypercars. Bernard Barquez and the Crystals fight it out between one another. Crystals lying in second place. LaRue pulling into pit lane to get his car sorted out. Do expect the likes of Vietti Buerta. Unfortunately, looks like Vietti Buerta, a non-finisher as well, having to retire the car due to too much damage. That is a gutting blow for the driver.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Steven. And we saw the rear wings being off of those cars, meaning that if the drivers get it back, luckily running wide there for Crystals, but if they are able to get it back, it does mean that the team will have to either put on a new rear wing, but also have to look at the rear body of the car, look at the struts, if some things are working or not, and then having maybe to put more replacement work into it. But to look at Mike McGear, and as he makes a move on the likes of Gideon Bernardi, a new one, a new driver to approve and to enter our series. Let's take a look at our grandstand as we might have a note slip to our director saying, it seems my ISP has the same reliability as that Lambo had last year, and that is the likes of Esteban Pretorius not being able to make it past the start finish line, something misfiring in the car and just saying, listen, we're not able even to make it the first lap and we have to retire the car. But as you said, a car has to be developed and will be improved. But now taking a look back, Stephen, at our two front runners. We had the likes of our hypercars. We had the likes of Crystals on pole at a very, very bad start and has dropped down. However, he's in second and that gap has closed down. Now, me and you know that he's a driver who has run in the hypercar last year and has experienced maneuvering through this traffic here, but also he has a better understanding regarding the Peugeot, how to make it work. And this Peugeot is the new Peugeot with the wing, because last season it did not have a wing.
No,
I recall that now.
Last season he did have the wing Peugeot.
Are we sure?
Yes.
I don't know. Either way, he has a lot more understanding.
It was the one with the wing, because the reason why I remember it is I can't think of anything more hideous that Peugeot has ever made than with this car without a rear wing. For some odd reason, they thought it was going to work, that they found the absolute cheat sheet of a car not quite working out in their favour. Since they got the rear wing on, more grip has come out of it. But that being said, you did point out this is one of the very few drivers that has kept to the same car. Knowing the car, knowing the track, knowing what needs to be done, that furthermore development coming into the fray. But that being said, we cannot take away showing Michael van Rooyen leading out our GT3 field. This is a driver that at the start of the first season was towards the back end of the field, now is leading by 4+ seconds in the Aston Martin. He's got this car absolutely lock, stock and barrel, working perfectly over Dion Cup, who is returning to the Ferrari 296 and just doesn't seem to have that car as dialed in as he would like. Kyle Oosthuizen lies third of the GT3 field in the BMW. New car coming into the fray as well. Bego Krobler switching to the Mercedes. New car as well, along with Blicknote out there in the returning BMW, and the likes of Machaka coming in to have a bit of fun. New driver, new car. This is all turning into a rather interesting situation for drivers.
And absolutely, Stephen. I think what has happened is that the drivers who stuck with the same car and who have a whole season of experience under their belt, developing the car, driving it, knowing what makes it better, is something that's going to count in their favor. I mean, we have seen the likes of Crystals. He knows how to set up the car, gets it better. But we're halfway into the race when I finally realized something, Stephen. We do not use the chicane at this current race of Fuji. So it's kind of a bit of an interesting one, but more of an open flowing one that the drivers are running through instead of the normal one. And me and you are familiar with that very short chicane before the final sector. But Crystals is someone who has said, and last season he hammered on it by saying the car does not have a high top end speed, I believe, but it's great acceleration out of corners. However, we do know that the Ferrari is an absolute beast by dominating the past 3 years of endurance racing with its tops, with its chassis in both factory teams and then as well as its customer team. So the Ferrari is also not something to sleep on, but the likes of Barkhuizen, Kruger and Kutzer will need to learn these new cars because they are new ones. For our 6 hypercars that are running our GTPs, only 3 cars that are our other 3 cars, the likes of Stolz, Jan Kleinans and Verveers. Those are the only 3 drivers who have stuck with the same car from season 1 up into season 2. But our GT3 field has blown wide open. Many are using the same old faithful that they've run in season 1, and many have trying new tactics because the other cars did not work. But it's battles up and down the entire timing tower for our GT3s. It's 4 chains, 5 chains. It's many cars fighting it out, and some door knocking and pushing each other wide. But that is racing. It's what we like to see. However, you have to be sometimes mindful.
Absolutely great stuff. Gideon Bernardi going and fighting out with JD Gildenace up on the inside, trying to get the pass done. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out there as Gideon getting the loss of time. JD immediately puts himself to the top and will continue on the dive. I mean, this is some great stuff, and drivers are trying to think what is going to be the best times out there. I mean, this is going to be some wild racing for the drivers to move up through the order. I mean, Ulrich Kleinans and Dan Brown have been putting on a great show. They've stuck together throughout this race as our hypercars are split up. First has broken away from second and third. Dion Cup in second is still running in with the likes of Kyle Oosthuizen on the back of it. I mean, this is going to be a huge, huge run for the drivers to move forward and see what's going to happen. But that being said, we're in for a great race nonetheless, as everyone trying to put their hammer down as fast as they can. But the question comes in as we nearing the halfway mark for the race, Cam. We still have to think about those pit stops. Drivers will be thinking about the pit stops. Also, this is an incredibly long time in the hypercar class and the GT3 class. It's a lot of concentration getting run on both sides of the field. But I do want to point out, on Brown's car, I see a South African flag.
Chris Brown. Chris Brown.
There's a South African
Not
flag
Chris Brown,
on this
Dane
car.
Brown.
If
Not
you
Chris
can see it
Brown.
on the rear wheel arch on left and right, it's absolutely amazing to actually see that. And honestly, Ulrich Kleinans, thank you. The South African flag being shown, and I love to see that. That is brilliant.
It's great to see, but I think, Steve, you missed the point. Well, what the joke, the brain fart that I had when I said Chris Brown. I meant to say Dane Brown, because Chris Brown is a singer in America.
How do you know that Dane
and
Brown isn't a singer? He's singing the tune of, I got the moves like Jagger trying to go up on the inside of Ulrich Kleinans. Well, he likes to move it, that's for certain, as both drivers continue on the chase and everyone is swift to action.
Yeah, and just taking a look here, a note being slipped there from by our director. Apparently, the likes of LaRue, unfortunately, having some issues within the car, disconnecting or not getting the power out of the car in mid-corner, and unfortunately having to put the car into the pits and saying that's enough. But that is the likes of having a new car. The Mercedes is new and it's something that has to be tested, but hopefully the likes of LaRue is able to sort that out and get that sorted. But Chris Haneke, a name that I'm grown used to race against, and a name that you also know and raced against also, Steven, is back with his old faithful, that Porsche, the one that made me scared every time I see him in the rearview mirror on ACC, has brought the Porsche over to LMU and is hoping to regain some of that prowess and dominance that came with his name, and hoping to really fight it out here. But currently fighting it out in the back of our pack in 18th with the likes of newcomer Gideon Bernardi in the trusty and very, very monotoned Ferrari 296. I mean, me and you have spoken about this car. It's like a long groan. No matter what, you just want to switch, but it just keeps on going. No matter
Absolutely.
what.
I mean, it's always a tough time out there. There's Ulrich Kleinans and Dan Brown still on the back of one another, trying to get a little bit more pace. Mike McGeer opens up and tries to get a little bit closer to JD Gildenays. And Gideon Bernardi, along with Chris Haneke, now up against one another. This is turning into a great race, but they now have to deal with the hypercars as the likes of Jean Fierce starts making his way through in the Toyota. Quick in and out, threading the needle. And the drivers will be starting to feel that. Jason Farmer breaks away from Dennis Gillett, as we do see Jody Siderman, who trying to gain a little bit more pace and hoping to get the run up through the field. I mean, this is still a tough race for drivers to march their way through as we keep an eye on the GT3 field. Not much is happening in the hypercars other than cycling through one another, just trying to keep it on the black stuff, try and deal with the traffic ahead. But the mental strain to get it absolutely perfect is not going to be easy. Grant Leclerc dealing with Conrad Martin. I mean, this is going to be a wild run, as we got 40 minutes and 40 seconds until we've reached the halfway point of the race. And Cam, so far, this has been the closest second and third have been since the start of the race. Dion Kamp and Kyle Oosthuizen on the back of one another, trying to put the hammer down early.
And absolutely, and that BMW again just showing its power. I mean, I can promise you, just take a look down this very long front stretch, the BMW has immense amount of power underneath that bonnet and just able to close up right onto that Ferrari, which seems to be lacking. And that's just something that is a characteristic that we've noticed in the previous season of this BMW, just being able to climb back and pull back some time. I mean, in this since the start of it, it's already clawed back almost a tenth there. So it's a lot of power there and great on the brakes. But I did see that the likes of Blichner has already performed these stops, Steven, at the halfway point. This is a strategy that many have employed previously, where they go and pit in the halfway mark. But most drivers probably try and extend that, go for an overcut, as I haven't seen any other of our other drivers, except for the likes of Jason Farmer, who has gotten into the pits now in order to get his stop out of the way and hopefully see it on to the very end. But now there's two drivers who have seen gone into the pits, get the stop done and dusted. But here we go, side by side, the likes of Dane Brown on Ulrich Kleinhardt. Oh, it is, a bit of almost contact side by side. Knocking off track. The red line colored car getting a bit pushed out the way as the Mercedes says, I want to get through here. And I'm going to make this reference again, Steve. I think we have a Mercedes versus Red Bull fight going on here.
Well, that's it, and it is close to one another. I've got to say, the Project Vapor team have come out in full force to come and race here at RaceFace.Pro. That being said, let's take a look at the mid-race results as we bring it up on screen for our hypercars. Crystals, as we do see, that is Ulrich Kleinhardt into the wall. The rear losing out a little bit of grip there, and unfortunately putting to bed on that car's drive. Crystals leads out the hypercars. Bernard Barkhuizen runs second place. Johan Kleinhardt in third. Likes of Johan Verfiers, Jaco Kutzer, and Brandon Kruger unfortunately retiring out of the race early on. And taking a look at our GT3 field, that's absolutely gotten mixed up. It is going to be Michael van Rooyen leading out the field along with Dion Cup. And we got Carl Oosthuizen on third place. Beggar Krobler, Machaka running in fifth, along with Dennis Gillett. Jody Cinnamon, Dan Brown, Ulrich Kleinhardt, Arno Kraus rounds out 10th. Going a little bit further, it's Grant Leclerc, one of our new names to the grid, at 11th, followed by Conrad Martin, JD Hildenace, Mike McGeer, Jason Farmer, Kirian Bernardi, Chris Heineke. Unfortunately, a couple of cars going and running out of this race. Jan Blichnotes is running one of the last of the runners, followed by Jeff LaRue, who is out of the race. Esteem Pretorius, who was our early retirement. Kruger Maton and Vietia Burta round out the field here as we battle it out for round one of the Le Mans Ultimate Championship here in RaceFace.Pro. But still, we got to give it up to the drivers who are persevering to try and get it to the end. I mean, this is always a tough race to ensure you could stay in the battle on. Still, we have got some close fights out on circuit. Likes of Kleinhardt, unfortunately, now pitting, getting some repair work. You can see some repair work being done to his car. Conrad Martin into the pits. Chris Heineke going a little bit further up through the field. He's hoping to keep ramping it up, keep climbing after a little bit of a disappointing start on his part. Dion Cup keeping ahead of Carl Oosthuizen. The Project Vapor team will look in the mirrors and see that there is Chris Stalls, who's taken over the lead of the race and hoping to start opening up the gap a little bit more to the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen.
No, it's quite interesting, Steven. I mean, when we went through the standings, we saw the likes of Crystals, who has taken the lead, and that's something that might have slipped through our net, because Bernard Barkhuizen, last time we saw, had a proper 2-second gap almost over Crystals, and then all of a sudden, next moment Crystals is past. So hopefully we can get them into our interview room at the end of the race just to hear what happened there. But Crystals, I think, has set up that car for late race dominance, as he has already pulled a 2-second gap over the likes of Barkhuizen and just managing this traffic absolutely beautifully, showing why he is the defending championship for our LMU Championship.
Well, that is it. And once again, just to remind everyone, sign-ups are open for a numerous amount of racing. We have got the Sena Corsa Competizione. They'll be running on Thursday. We've got Wednesday is our LMU day, and finishing up next week is going to be iRacing, but that's going to be opening up with a new championship soon, so keep an eye on it as well. So still Plenty of racing to be had, plenty of amazing racing to be had, but I've got to point out Grant Leclerc, new driver to the field, up against returning driver Arno Kraus in the Lexus, trying to put the hammer on. And I've got to say, this is an interesting run for the Aston Martin V8 Vantage to fight it out against another fellow V8, a small block of Arno Kraus's Lexus, who's getting a little bit more run out of the corners, trying to push a little bit more and really stand on the gas. I mean, this is all just wild driving. 24 minutes to go, and still so much can happen.
I mean, anything can happen, Steven, and the likes of that Lexus, we both know that it is quite a strong car, also in a straight line, as we saw last season. But what I kind of find funny is last season Arno Kraus was racing the other Toyota, joining the likes of, oh, snap at the back for the Aston there, but the likes of Arno Kraus driving the Toyota factory hypercar alongside the likes of Fiat, and now driving the Lexus, which is more like the luxury version of a Toyota, one can say, but really still staying in that Toyota ecosystem kind of, and just hoping to get maybe promoted again to the second car whenever that second car returns. But Crystal's really just navigating this traffic. The gap down to Barca is in about just over a second, but it is kind of tricky to see what is going on here. But Bernard Barca is really trying to claw back. It is pulls into one way and then pulls into another way, and this has nothing to do. Both these drivers still have to do their pit stop. And Steven, another thing we're going to mention is these hypercars need to have a certain amount of virtual energy left at the end of the race. They will be disqualified, and we had someone already discover the wrath of the scrutineering by not crossing the line last season in Monza with insufficient fuel on board.
It's going to be an interesting one. Just taking a look, if you are having difficulty with sign up, head over to our Discord, open up a ticket in the help desk. We will have people, they'll be able to help get that all sorted out for you. Might be a little bit easier to get it done fast and get you out racing here for the next round 2 next week. We're going to be having a bit of fun in LMU. So head over to the Discord, open up a help ticket, we'll get you guys sorted out. But that being said, you touched on it. Chris Stalls having the gap slowly but surely chopped down by Bernard Barkhuizen. Both drivers pushing as hard as they can, and how much energy is remaining. Well, there it is on screen. Sills has got 25% on his battery, but Bernard Barkhuizen sits on 10%. Maybe pushing a little bit too hard here. Kleinans is on 27. Verveers is on 25. Kutz is on 25. There is still a lot for these drivers to keep going. I mean, this is also rather exciting of who's willing to push the limit a little bit more, and considering there's still so much time left in the race, who's going to be able to stand at the top of the field. I mean, this is all what we take a look at. This is all the factors that you got to consider as a hypercar. For the GT3s, it is what your fuel level looks like. And for the likes of Gideon Bernardi, Chris Heineke, and Mike McGeer, who are constantly putting the pressure down on one another, they're trying to really claw through the ranks, not having the easier time out there. They are battling to keep it in check.
No, absolutely, Steven, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, Chris Stalls really managing that battery again quite nicely, maybe switching between modes, balance, build, and also our attack mode that the hypercars have in order to deploy that extra battery to give them that extra boost in order to pull away from these GT3s. But also just managing it much better. And now the question is also, did Bernard Barkhuizen forget to change mode from that start, maybe attack early and then just try and preserve it, forgot to switch it, or is that Ferrari just just a little bit too much power hungry, as I think my microphone might have glitched out there a little bit, sorry about that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the likes of Barkhuizen and what he will do, because this is new territory for him. He knows what's at stake here, but he also is against a very knowledgeable driver in the likes of Barkhuizen, and very close behind him is another Ferrari in the likes of Jan Kleinans, who he's returning with the same car, and that's if wrong words, facing Ulrich Kleinans. The other Kleinans is also joining us here, but Jan Kleinans also has the same amount of battery as the likes of Stalls, and Stalls and Jan are both teammates for Delta Negative Racing. So these two might be communicating, seeing what they can do in order to get the better hand over the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen. Bernard and Jan both running the customer colored Ferrari and hoping to get the legs of one another.
We'll keep in mind the battle of Dion Cup and Carl Oosthuizen, and Oosthuizen just losing the rear a little bit more to try and keep it in check. Just can't put the hammer down as much as they would like to. 20 minutes to go left for round one here at Fuji for the RaceFace.Pro LMU Championship, and still it is a monster chase for our drivers. But this is a critical moment as they have been battling it out for the first time in RaceFace.Pro history for LMU, 60 minutes. And that being said, during the course of the season, it's going to move from 60 minutes to 80 minutes worth of racing. And that is where it's going to get wild, and drivers are going to have to think a little bit more outside the box. What are they going to do? How far are they willing to go? Where are they going to make up that time? As we do see Vega Krobler getting overtaken by our hypercars, he has to be very careful, as he's also been trying to get the run through the field, as 13th place Arno Kraus is on the back of him and looking for the inside line. Maybe Arno Kraus a little bit lighter now, trying to work his way through. He is a lap down, but he sure as most putting the hustle in for 4th place Vega Krobler.
Yeah, absolutely, Bago trying to get back into that groove, moving over from our ACC side into LMU. But I do have to say, Stephen, I do like the look of these, well, the side panels of these GT3 cars. Last season we had the likes of those dots to show if they are first, second or third. However, even on our hypercars, you will see, if you look for the keen-eyed amongst us, will notice that panel on the newer model between these two. You can see the one behind on the likes of Jan Kleinans is the older generation of hypercar, I can say, who does not have that digital panel that shows which position they are in, and if they're in the pits, what the virtual energy is, how much fuel is going on, and also how long they've been on the jacks, and also the pit timer. So it's a bit interesting to see how technology has evolved between these cars to go from those 3 dots all the way into those LED panels. And honestly, between me and you, Stephen, and everybody listening, the LED panels make our jobs, in order to see which position everybody in, much better.
Well, it's always an interesting side, and it also is showing a little bit of the change between the two cars being shown between the Ferrari cars. They're both sporting the 83s on them in terms of livery, but 2 chassis generations. Also, those numbering boards are insanely expensive to get here in South Africa, that's for certain. First place, Michael van Rooyen, with Dion Cup not too far behind, with Kyle Oosthuizen hanging in the wings as well. Kyle Oosthuizen from Project Vapor looking to continue to put the hassle on. These 3 are within striking distance of one another. This is where Van Rooyen's got to be rather careful on what he needs to do. They try to cycle through some of the back markers, but losing a lot of time. Remember, he had a 4-second gap. Yeah, that has now been dropped to 1.2 seconds to Dion Cup. And right on the back of him, in the tow, is Kyle Oosthuizen, who's not backing out of it as well. So keep an eye on these cars as they continue on. We do see likes of Jan Kleinans trying to utilize the tow of Bernard Barkhuizen. We know that Bernard is running low on energy, and take a look at that. Barkhuizen dives into pit lane to try and get it all sorted out, just missing the cutoff. I mean, any further would have been done. If that pit lane was any longer, he would have been out of this race.
And absolutely, Stephen, it was very quick on the jacks. I wonder, not changing tires, it seems might have only be a bit of a splash and dash. Yeah, directly off of the jacks, and away we go. I mean, normally a full stop for these cars are around 30 plus seconds due to the rules, I believe. I do stand under correction, but they have to go. Yep, getting a nod here from Stephen next to me saying, listen, it's 30 seconds because they have to change the tires to get on the jack, drop off the jack, but they also have to wait until the fuel is in. So I think what has happened here, he has just gone and hold
virtual
up
energy,
0.4.
Virtual energy is extremely low.
Has the OG cars gotten it wrong? I wonder, because that was very quick up on the jacks and very quickly down. I wonder now. Now we have to keep a close eye. Maybe it will reset when he crosses the line again, but that doesn't normally happen. Normally when they exit the pit, there's a little RFID scanner that also scans the tires, but also scans.
Yeah,
there we go.
24%.
Reset. It takes some time to pull through just onto our system there, but 24% already. Only 10% more than the likes of Stalls, but Stalls is already 50 seconds up the road, and Chris Stalls will definitely know the gap between him and his closest competitor, which is the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen. So now it's going to be Chris Stalls. Has he managed those tires more nicer than the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen? Because we do know Bernard has not changed tires, because that was very quickly up and very quickly down, and has his early push from the start of the race cost Bernard any life in his tires? I mean, Chris Stalls jogged back, but was very conservative, building the car up into its pace that we're seeing now, the natural pace, where that car just wakens up and just pulls away. It's kind of interesting to see what's going to happen here, but now we've got two teammates behind one another in the likes of Stalls and Kleinans. But take a look into our GT3 field. We've got Dion Kapia really pulling away, moving to the side to let our hypercars through, but a bit of a sketchy moment there as the likes of Stalls running wide. But now Kleinans has to back off and wait, because going into a very twisty and windy section, and just probably thinking under the helmet, please just move, please just move, please just move. I'm trying to hunt down my teammate in order to either get the win or cover up any undercut that has been executed by the likes of Barkhuizen.
Well, that being said, you've also got Dion Cup and Oosthuizen who are brawling out with one another. They didn't want to lose too much time, and you could see the effect it had by just allowing a hypercar to come through at the wrong place, wrong time. Dion Cup and Kyle Oosthuizen now slipstream, nose to tail, trying to figure out where to go. Cup to the inside, trying to guard the inside line into turn one. Oosthuizen going to be stuck around the outside. Puts the brakes on, tries to go for the swing under, up and under. Unfortunately, not going to work out this time. Dion Cup just getting a little bit more acceleration, but these two are brawling. Cup having to try and do a bit of a baiting move. Didn't work out in his favor. He ran out wide, trying to return to the circuit. Oosthuizen side by side. BMW trying to put the hammer through, both turbocharged. One straight
Even
six,
contact
one
in
V6,
our hypercars. Contact hypercars. Chris Stalls unfortunately losing the lead there and falling into second place behind of Jan Kleinans. Don't know if that was because of back market traffic. It looks to be back market traffic, but from first to second, Chris Stalls has lost it and has allowed the likes of his teammate to sneak on through.
That is a huge, huge wake up for the two of them. And it does look like Stalls losing that rear quite a bit. He's not having an easy time trying to get that car sorted out. We did see in shot the likes of Dion Cup and Oosthuizen are fighting with one another. But I do want to point out that this is now turned into a very interesting race. Kleinans puts the hammer down, and it looks like Chris Stalls going to remain out there to try and fight his way through. A little bit further back, Michael van Rooyen, Kyle Oosthuizen, and Dion Cup keep the fight between one another, and the likes of Bego Krobler slowly but surely makes his way in fourth place. Jason Farmer fights it out with Kilian Bernardi. They were in front of Chris Stalls, but they are also fighting for 14th and 15th in position for the GD3s, 19th and 20th overall. This is now turning into a race of attrition. Who has got the extra mile? Who can go that little bit further in the race for both hypercars and for our GT3s in this tremendous battle? And I do want to point out, Bego Krobler is now closer to Dion Cup. He was miles away and now started picking up the time, started returning into the fray. Jody Cinnamon, a little bit further down, lies in fifth place in a little bit of no man's land. Dennis Gillett and the likes of Machaka, who's now leaving pit lane. Arno Kraus will be the next to try and get on by. Might dive for pit lane as well, as Machaka gets out of the pits and continues on the drive. Kleinans trying to close up the gap. He does not dive into pit lane, neither does Chris Stalls. This is an interesting drive for our hypercars, and once again, Have they made the right call? Kleinans, Stills, and Verveers under 10% in their race, and it's 17% for Barkhuizen, who had the earlier stop.
It's kind of interesting, and curious to see curious in wondering what happened with the likes of Stills, as he had quite a commanding lead over his teammate. And just looking in, when I looked over to our monitors here, yellow flag, and just looked at our timing towers, and Chris Stills just unfortunately pummeling down and losing that spot. So might have just lit up those rear tires, spinning them around, which caused this rear to step up when we spotted them. And unfortunately now trying to nurse those tires, but now we've got 10 minutes remaining. That warning popping up on our screen. 10 minutes remaining in this race, our first race of our season 2, and these two front runners still need to stop. Question is, how long will they be in that pit in order to get the virtual energy and the fuel needed to get to the very end of the race? But here we have another GT3, the 7th place GT3, really holding up our leaders.
Just come out of pit lane and is on his outlap. Tires are cold for him. He's getting mobbed by our hypercars on the way through. Let's quickly run down who is where in the hypercar class. It is the likes of Johan Kleinans, Chris Stills in 2nd place, followed by Jean Fiers, Bernard Barkhuizen, and Jaco Kutzer rounds out in 5th place. Unfortunately, Brandon Kruger, early retirement, took him out of the running. Moving on to our GD3 class, it is Michael van Rooyen out in the Aston Martin with the likes of Kyle Oosthuizen in 2nd place. Project Vapor driver hoping to make his way through. Dion Kamp in 3rd. Bego Grobler lies in 4th place as he's getting hunted down by the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen. Getting a pass done easy there. Jody Sediment a little bit further down in 5th. Andre Machaka in 6th, followed by Arno Kraus. Grant Leclerc a little bit further in 8th, followed by Dennis Gillett in 9th. Chris Heineke in 10th. Dane Brown in 11th, followed by Johan Blichno, Conrad Martin, Jason Farmer, Kirion Benardi, along with JD Hildenace. Mike McGear down in 17th, making his return back to the sim racing world. Ulrich Kleinans, one of our new drivers out there, and I've got to say, with the South African flag, going to be one of my favourite cars there. Between himself and Project Vapor, he's sporting custom liveries. Jeff LaRue unfortunately retired out of the race, along with Esteem Pretorius. We hear had a mechanical problem. LaRue had a mechanical problem. Quirmaton, we don't know what happened to him. Unfortunately, he didn't start the race. Viertia Buerta taking a retirement due to mechanical damage. And Brandon Kruger rounds out our non-finishers here at the moment. 7 minutes and 38 seconds to go, Cam. And it is lighting up. Looks like everything's settled down for now, barring Grant Leclerc and Dennis Gillett, who are within 2 seconds of one another, fighting out for 8th and 9th. McLaren versus the likes of the Aston Martin.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. I just want to quickly take a look here at the likes of Barkhuizen now closing up onto the pit straight, and Kleinans in the pits. Now, we both know that Barkhuizen pitted earlier, but Kleinans has entered into the pits. Now the gap is 19-18. He's tumbling down. Where is Kleinans? Kleinans is rolling and is out of the pits, but what is the gap between him and the likes of Barkhuizen? It seems to have been in favor of the Delta Negative team, as Barkhuizen is far too back to make a move on the likes of Kleinans. Kleinans coming out in 2nd. Barkhuizen losing out on pitting earlier, unfortunately getting stuck, I believe, in some traffic and not being able to really close that gap and really gain any advantage in the form of his of that undercut. But now also again, did Kleinans put in on some fresh rubber, or is it just again a splash and dash? I do believe it might have been just a small splash and dash. But now Chris Stills, I do believe we can expect to be into the pits the next time around. So about a 50-second gap. Yeah, Chris Stills into the pits. Now where is this going to put our GTP leaders amongst the top 3? Is it going to be retain the lead, or will Kleinans be snatching that away and get Stills deployed right back into the fight for first, second, and 3rd? But take a look at this. Oh, contact!
That is a mistake for Johan Kleinans. Unfortunately, getting into the fight with Dennis Gillett and Leclerc. Lost out a bit of time there, and I was waiting for it. We'll keep an eye on Dennis Gillett in that McLaren, trying to keep ahead of Grant Leclerc, and immediately it landed up with a lockup to see the drivers I mean, this is a huge, huge run. But what is that going to make for the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, who just flies on by? Sorry, it was Bernard Barkhuizen who got held up there and lost a bit of time to Jan Kleinans, as we do see the likes of Dennis Gillett diving into pit lane. I mean, this is absolutely wild, wild stuff. Drivers trying to figure out what is going to be the game plan. How far are they willing to go? You did mention Chris Stills still needs to get in the box. He is one of the very few hyper... Well, he's actually...
He's just done it now.
Box, apologies. And still holds by nearly a 9-second or 9+ second gap to the likes of Jan Kleinans, who got through the traffic cleanly. Unfortunately, Bernard Barkhuizen didn't. Well, it's going to be Kleinans' turn as he gets in between the Aston Martin and McLaren. He gets an easy pass by between the two of them. Not too bad, not too shabby. Good to see drivers moving forward. Big talking point, however, for our GT3 field. Kyle Oosthuizen in first place, 37 seconds up the road from Michael van Rooyen, who led out majority of the race.
That is just even. However, I do believe the likes of Kyle Oosthuizen still needing to pit, hoping to push it right until the very end, because that gap between them, yes, there we go, confirmation from our graphics saying Kyle Oosthuizen still needs to pit as Michael van Rooyen has gone and done his splash. I do believe Oosthuizen is trying to push until the very, very penultimate lap, one would say, in order to minimize the damage, but we do know that the likes of the pit time is about 40 to 30 seconds that you do lose in time if you do not do your tires, as we do see Kyle Oosthuizen moving across the track and getting over the pit entry line, staying there, and into the box as he goes. So now it's going to be all up in the air who is going to get out in the lead for our GT3s. Let's take a look at this. Michael van Rooyen going into the final twisty bit section. It's a hard left, then a hard right. Oh wait, no, double left, sorry. Left, and then it's long braking into a long, slow right-hander before it's the long stretch. Now it's going to be who is going to be the best there. It has Oosthuizen just put enough fuel in order to overcut this, but we'll see as the racing spirit of Lamar Aston Martin now crosses the pit entry line and crosses the line here. 9-second gap still. Oosthuizen still in pit, hasn't gotten out yet. Exited now. Michael van Rooyen closing 5 seconds, going down 4. It's going to be right till the very, very end. He's got the pace. Oosthuizen doesn't, but he's going to have still hot tires because none of them has changed the tires. 3 seconds the gap. Oosthuizen playing it beautifully and is able to snatch that lead from the likes of Van Rooyen by doing an early pit stop. The only early pit stop that we've seen in our top runners to have worked out in both classes.
Well, Chris Heineke was also a late pit stop into the final 3 minutes. That's worked out to put him in the top 10 as Grant Leclerc just got ahead of him. And Chris Heineke now trying to put the hammer down as they got third place Dion Cup and they've got first place of the Hypercars trying to make their way through. Talk about getting busy with those blue flags. Dion Cup up on the inside. Chris Heineke giving him a little bit of room. But this is now going to allow him to utilize the blue flags in his favor. It allows Dion Cup to be that wrecking ball to open the door on Grant Leclerc for that 9th position. Grant has a very difficult role. He needs to hold his line. He can't fight the likes of Dion Cup for the corner, but he doesn't have to move off the racing line. He knows the moment that door opens up, he's got Chris Heineke for a bit of company. Oh, that all changes, however, as Kleinans robs him of that opportunity, dives up on the inside, and Chris Heineke was just pushed offline at the wrong moment to try and get that pass done and dusty. He's going to have to try and earn it in the last 1 minute and 18 seconds here at Fuji for round 1 of the RaceFace.Pro Le Mans Ultimate Season 2. And so far, it has been an absolute wild ride. They still need to push themselves that little bit more. They still need to figure out what is going to be the pace and how far are they willing to go. Here comes Bernard Barkhuizen into the fighting duo. It's Chris Heineke trying to figure out where can he get the pass done. Gets the rear stepping out underneath him. He lost the drive. There goes Bernard Barkhuizen. There goes any opportunity to use the hypercars as a wrecking ball to get past Grant Leclerc for that 9th place. This is the closest fight out on circuit, as everyone has settled down for now. But our GT3s turning into a wild ride.
Dive bomb, not diving, well, a bit of a move there almost, getting aside, alongside the likes of Grant Leclerc. Chris Heineke really making his move back here into the racing scene here, but on the outside sweeps a Ferrari through in the hyperclass, but side by side, it is a long run. Now it's about just a small kink, no more chicane there, and almost just running wide, unfortunately, being side by side with the likes of Grant Leclerc. But now it is not yet the final lap. The leaders of our hyperclass car, well, this is the final lap, as that will now be marked as the very end, as Chris Stalls Chris Stalls takes the checkered flag in the race 1 of our season 2 here at Fuji Speedway. And then right behind him, Kleinan's Delta Negative team locking up that front row, and right behind him, Bernard Barkhuizen, a brilliant debut for our for the OG team here at in the hyperclass car here at Fuji. And then the lone Toyota in 4th, followed by Jaco Kutzer in 5th, rounding out our hyperclass car.
Carl Oosthuizen, Michael van Rooyen and Dion Cup will come across, taking the top 3, but it is Grant Leclerc to keep ahead of Chris Heineke as they came across the line. I mean, this is an absolute wild one. And once again, massive congratulations to our drivers taking the win. Chris Stalls goes and beats out everyone in the hypercar class. And still, as cars come across the line, Conrad Martin gets across the line. Arno Kraus, damaged and broken. He will try and get that car done and dusted. Well done to him. Jason Farmer along with Gideon Bernardi will battle their way through. Unfortunately, retirements coming in for Leroux, Buerta, Kruger, Issam Pretorius, and Kriya Mouton, who was not able to finish out the race. But here comes Bernardi. First time in the grid. Will come across the line. Happy as can be after a stellar drive on his part. Dan Brown finishing up in 13th position, and the last of our runners out on track. What a stellar drive, what a race, and what an incredible time here at Fuji, and unfortunately does bring to the end of round 1 after such an incredible race.
And absolutely, Stephen, it just brings back the action that we had in race 1, season 1 of our championship here, and it seems to have carried over with some new rivalries being sparked in our hyperclass car between the OG and Delta Negative guys, and I'm really happy to see that the guys are going to continue that one. But we do like to talk about this, and I did mention it earlier during the broadcast. I'm kind of curious to see what went wrong, what happened with the OG strategy there, as they had a phenomenal launch. And with that, we're going to bring in our 3rd place hyperclass car in the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen. So, Bernard Barkhuizen, welcome to the commentary box, this time as a podium finisher in our hyperclass car. How does that feel?
How's it? Yeah, welcome back everyone. But that was an entertaining one. I'm brand new in the hypercar series. It was very interesting with all the GT3s. But yeah, I made a mistake with my fuel calculations. I didn't match my fuel load with my chill energy, so I needed to stop earlier. So that's what put me on the back foot.
Well, we mentioned that also during the broadcast, that we took a look at your virtual energy, and even though it wouldn't have been one, but it wouldn't have been such a big impact, it still somehow played some impact into the whole strategy. I mean, were you pushing too hard early, burning too much virtual energy, or was there just something in the setup that you didn't account for in terms of pulling enough or putting enough into it at the very start?
Look, it's my first race, in hypercar, seriously. I used the online calculator, and I just put the figures in and, hope that was going to work. But my tank wasn't full, so it wasn't matching with my virtual energy. I put in less. So I just put in what the calculator told me, and that was definitely a bad idea.
Well, can't always trust technology, as that's something that I also learned during this week. But yeah, I mean, the OG team had a phenomenal launch off of the line with both you and Kruger really just getting the better run on the likes of Crystals. Is that just something that still needs to be figured out in terms of continuing that pace until the very, very end? Or is this just in learning the car, or was this just a once-off thing of learning the car, making some mistakes?
I did quite a lot of practice. I'm pretty comfortable with the car. I think Chris just had a bad start. I could see on the instant he did it and disengaged the bit limiter as soon as we did. And also to say that, look, very sorry for my teammate. We were part of like a GT3 back marker that was on the outside, and I didn't intentionally go left or anything, but it seems like I needed to, and then I just nudged Brandon, which made him span out. So yeah, I feel really bad about that one.
Well, unfortunately, it is one of those, but we are still glad to see the OG guys moving from the GT3 cars into our hyperclass cars. And yeah, I'm going to give you the dance floor. Oh, dance floor. I think I want to boogie tonight, Steven. I don't know why, but I'm in the mood for some tunes. But I'm going to give you the mic here, Brandon. Between you and your team, I keep on confusing it. Bernard, I'm going to give you the mic and the floor also to say any words that you want to. Take it away, keep it PG, and yeah. It's all yours.
Yeah, interesting. I think we only have 8 hypercars on the grid and something like 24 GT3s. So I think this whole season is just going to be about navigating the traffic, taking risks where you can and not where you can't. And yeah, working out, making sure the calculator actually freaking works, and then hopefully win a race. But let's see next one.
Well, some good fighting words there from the likes of Bernard Parkes and as well as from the OG team there. I'm going to wish you well, Bernard, to go celebrate with your team as well as get a bit of a debrief going on regarding this race.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Well, Steve, I'm going to bring in now the likes of our second place finisher of our hyperclass, and that is the likes of Jan Kleinans. Jan, welcome back. One of our only drivers returning in a car that raced last season. And yeah, give us a similar start to what we had last season with you and your teammate dominating the race. Take us through this, how this race went for you guys.
Look, honestly, I wouldn't call it dominating. Barkhuizen and them were fairly quick. I think I managed a bit. Like, I tried to keep tires. This was definitely a race where it's a single set. Otherwise, you lose too much time. So I was just planning on playing the long game, letting the guys at the front fight, especially from where I qualied. And it paid off. So no, super happy with the result. Definitely wish I had a little bit more pace, but happy overall.
I mean, you speak about the pace, but me, you, and Steven, as well as our audience, know that, I mean, the Delta Negative team likes to play the long game. We saw that last season also with you and Chris swapping the lead every now and then and really taking it out there to the very, very best of your abilities. You're saying now it didn't have pace, but I do have a sense that you're also putting the hat over your competitors' eyes also a little bit, saying, you still have some pace, just need to spend some time or practice.
No, look, definitely you can always practice more, always prepare more. This is a tough race, especially with traffic. It's the lap's so short that you end up behind all these GT3s, and with the huge GT3 field we've got, which is great. It was definitely a lot of management. But no, look, in terms of pace, I think the consistency was there for me, but I just missed that 1 or 2 temps, per lap. I was running a bit more. I think I was running a bit more downforce than the other Ferraris. It was definitely evident in sort of some of the corner exits. And of course, it helped me in the long run on tires, but maybe missed a bit on pace.
Well, you said it. There's also some things you suspect there, but also I'm going to give the mic over to my very quiet co-commentator here, who's trying to hide a bit away, trying to manage some stuff here in the background. Again, just doing some good work there. But Steven, I'm going to give the mic to you.
Well,
Any questions?
I'd like to ask a simple question. I mean, going and utilizing the older car, I mean, this is the older spec that you're out there going and having a bit of fun. What was the game plan to try and step a little bit faster? Is there a difference that you can feel between the more current of the Ferrari 499Ps, or is it exactly the same out there? We were talking about the difference in number boards that you can see. Is there a difference in chassis? Is there a difference in capabilities of the cars?
No, honestly, they're the exact same. Only difference, unfortunately, is the driver. So, I can only improve myself.
And game plan for the rest of the championship to try and get a little bit closer. Now that you've got to feel out the competition a little bit more, you do have some proper battles ahead of you, and it does look like the drivers are going to give you a bit of a rough time to go and fight for first in the championship.
Yeah, Stephen, it's awesome. The pace in the field's definitely there. It's great when things are competitive. It pushes you. It pushes me to get faster. It pushes the other guys, and the more competitive a series is, the more fun it is ultimately. So I'm looking forward to it. Game plan: cross the line before they do. That's where we're going.
Well, absolutely great stuff. Before we let you go to enjoy anything you'd like to say to all our sponsors here at RaceFace.Pro and to the absolutely amazing petrol heads out there in the virtual grandstands.
Yeah, look, of course, as always, thanks to the sponsors for making things happen. All the admin behind the scenes, you guys in the commentary box, and then, congratulations to Chris, who had a great win. Yuan, who just missed out on the podium, he also did a great race. Thanks for all the support.
Absolutely great stuff. Jan Kleinans taking second place in the Hypercar. That being said, Cameron, there's only one winner in the Hypercar class, and that goes to Delta Negative driver Chris Stills. Chris, welcome to the commentary box, and well, back in the Peugeot. Bonjour, how are you feeling after getting the race win?
Hi, Stephen. No, that was incredibly difficult and very intense. So I'm happy to even be sitting in the commentary room at all. My power went off just before the race, and I was just hoping that my inverter lost, and had a couple moments, and it was a tough battle with everyone. Everyone was so quick. So I'm just happy to get the win.
Now we've got to ask, what on earth happened towards the end of the race? You're leading, dominating, and then all of a sudden, down the order, Peugeot wasn't getting any grip. What on earth happened out there?
I actually got into an incident. I'll have to go look. I don't think it was my fault. I think a GT3 ran wide and tapped me, and I had like a 720 spin, and I managed to keep it out of the wall, and I just kept going, but I lost all of my advantage, and then Jan was on me, and then again the next lap or the lap thereafter, just with the lapping of the GT3s, I chose the wrong side, and just lost all of my time. Like they took their racing line as they were entitled to do, and Jan just managed the traffic better there and got ahead, and I knew I had the pace because I was feeling pretty quick, but it was just about actually getting past the Ferrari at that point, because it was so quick in the straights. I had nothing against the Ferraris in the straights. And so I knew it would all be about the pit stop. And I have to say, I don't think I left anything on the table with the pit stop. I almost put it in the wall coming into the pits. There was no margin at all. And luckily I was able to jump in the pits.
Well, absolutely great stuff. And now game plan going forward, now that you've seen the competition a little bit closer, a little bit tighter, and also getting put on the back foot at the start of the race, you know that everyone's out there for a fight.
No, for sure. And I mean, everyone is quick. Top 4, top 5 guys are all really, really quick. So it's going to be difficult. It was a tight battle. The Peugeot tends to do that at the start. It really doesn't have good launches. It's just a thing that doesn't get its tires warm quickly either. So it's just a part of the car. I'm just hoping that Vijo is better on some of the other tracks, because although we got the win, I think we're a bit fortunate today. And the pace, we got a big weight penalty recently from the game, so the car is quite a bit slower now, and I just hope on some other tracks we can be more competitive.
Oh, absolutely great stuff. Before I let you go, anything you want to say out there to all our amazing sponsors here at RaceFace.Pro, to the admins, drivers, teams, and most importantly, I think you agree with me on this one, our absolutely amazing petrol heads out in the grandstands.
Yeah, no, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Stephen, as well, and all the sponsors to make this possible. And yeah, it wouldn't obviously be happening if there weren't people to watch. So thanks for everyone to coming to support, and thanks for everyone for competing. It is a big time commitment to compete, and we're happy to have you guys here, and I hope we can make a good league.
Absolutely great stuff. Crystal's taking first place in the hypercars. Some say it's a bit of a battlefield out there. Some say it's a battlefield of 6. Well, I'll just taking a look at that. But, Cameron, now that the hypercars are over, let's go to the biggest class racing here at RaceFace.Pro, Le Mans Ultimate Championship Season 2.
And absolutely, Stephen, that will be our GT3 GT3 cars, or LMGT3 if you want to be very specific. And we're going to start with the likes of our third place car, which is the likes of Dion Cup. So Dion Cup, welcome into the commentary box here for the race 1 of our season 2 here of LMU. And this time you are kicking off with quite a massive improvement compared to last season. How does this feel? How does it feel to be in the pointy end of this field rather than mid-pack, one would say?
I was a little bit surprised, but it was a great lap. It paid off. Yeah, I waited a bit, warmed up the tires for 2 laps, and did a push on the third, and that worked.
Well, you just mentioned that there, the tire management strategy working out a bit better there, and yeah, I mean, you really proved to be one of the faster driving GT3s. Unfortunately, just losing out there at the race start, and then unfortunately just tumbling down a bit of the order there. What happened? Did the car just seem to lose pace, or was the setup not being as responsive as you had?
No. I think at the start I just fluffed a bit. I was a bit late on the throttle. But the rest of the race was actually fine. I just made a couple of small mistakes. It was nothing major. I could have held on to P2. I don't think P1 was possible. Michael was quite a bit quicker than me. But yeah, it was a good race. I'm very chuffed with P3. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, yeah, we saw some blows being landed between various of the competitors there, but also with some of the hypercars making it a bit difficult for our GT3s. How did you experience managing that traffic and laying them through and getting them?
The hypers were
past?
okay. The hypers were okay, but the GTs, the lapping GTs were pretty bad. They didn't get out of the way at all. Yeah.
Well, that's just something that I mean, we have a lot of newcomers to our series here, and I think it's going to take a guiding hand such as yourself and experienced and yourself just to guide them in the right direction. But take us through your further expectations for the series. Do you think we can expect you to be on this podium a lot more with you having a bit more experience in the Ferrari, or is it going to be a long, enduring fight between yourself, Carl Oosthuizen, as well as our older hands in our GT3 class?
See, this Fuji is a track I know well, so I expect it to do well. But I don't know, Qatar is the one I'm worried about. It's a track I'm not very good at, so we'll see how it goes, but I'm hopeful.
Well, you mentioned Qatar, definitely it's one of our newer circuits that also recently been released, and it's not something that many people have driven on. So we have done all the other circuits in our calendar, Stephen, but I do believe Qatar is going to be one that's going to be very interesting. I mean, we saw last season how the cars handled in the hot, humid air in Bahrain, and Qatar is relatively close. I do not know my geography that well entirely in terms of maps, but it's also set in the desert area. So I'm going to give the floor now over to you, Dion. You can give challenging words to anybody out there in the grandstands, any competition you have out there, as well as just a thank you to anybody out there. But the floor is yours. You are more than welcome. Keep it PG-13. Well, just PG. Just keep it PG, and yeah, you can say whatever is your heart contained.
Yeah, maybe just a shout out to the M&R boys. I hope someone was watching. That was a lot of fun. More of you should come join. This is really when it becomes the most fun. It's when it becomes competitive, and it was really competitive tonight, and I enjoyed that. So I'm really looking forward to the season. And thank you for hosting the race. It was great fun.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, as well as from the admins on the RaceFace.Pro team. But yeah, we hope to see more drivers come in. There is still some slots available. If you want to join, always feel more than welcome to head over to our Discord, open up a support ticket, and we will help you get slotted into our various 2 fields. And if there's even more, who knows, we might be able to make up a bit more of a second class in terms of our LMP2s, but that is still up in the air. But Dion, I'm going to let you go celebrate with the team and enjoy this third place, I believe, for the race tonight. Thank you for joining us in the commentary box.
Thank you.
Well, Stephen, that takes us to the very end now, and I pulled myself there, or something happened there. I think I made a bit of a mistake there. But yeah, we had the likes of Michael Verhoeven in the waiting room, but unfortunately had to run away. And then also our race winner of our GT3s, Carl Oosthuizen, unfortunately having to run around, getting the bit of a side eye from the significant other saying, listen, you had your fun, now we gotta go have dinner. So he had to run there, but he says great race to everybody out there, and he enjoyed the racing out here tonight. So I just want to say again, thank you to everybody out there tonight for joining us, but also now it's all about what's going to happen next. It's all about different stuff that is going to be out there, but I do know for the rest of the season, I'm eager to see what's going to happen here. We've got to go back to our old favorite final round for this season. It's definitely my favorite one, which is the likes of La Barre, Circuit de la Sarthe, the home of endurance racing, which really proves the drivers as well as the cars, but also a longer format. This is our first 1 hour race in order to just bring some action, and we already saw the action we have out here tonight, and I am looking forward to see what is going to happen next. But for everybody out there who really wants to go and race and join us for this magnificent racing, please head on over to our RaceFace.Pro Discord channel, Discord server, and we will definitely help you out getting you on board and joining us for some phenomenal racing. And it's not just LMU, we also have our ACC side and iRacing. Even though the iRacing might be ending next week, keep in mind we do have some of our off-season racing fun, and I do hear a little birdie saying there is going to be some very fun racing going on with a mix of historics as well as multi-class and some new toys being played around with in order to test some new stuff. However, so be part of our journey there, go test it out, help us improve also at RaceFace.Pro, and then also just enjoy join us for the fun. From myself and Stephen Koenig, we want to say a very special thank you for our sponsors from Team SBR, Virtual Motorhead, Simulator Cave, and EG Evolve, as well as THC Production for giving us the opportunity for this phenomenal broadcasting. And then from myself, I want to say thank you to Stephen Koenig here for allowing me to occupy the same commentary box as him and talk his ear off for about an hour and a half. But anybody out there in the grandstand, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight. And then finally, Stephen, any words of wisdom from you and any final thoughts?
Well, I think we're in for an absolute treat. Massive thank you, Cameron, for joining tonight. Always great to have him in the head. And even the pets go and agree with it. But it is in for an absolute treat. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and let us know what was your favorite parts of the race. Plenty more to come. Week 13 of iRacing here at RaceFace.Pro after next week's final. But keep an eye out, because round 1 of the RaceFace.Pro ACC Championship starts tomorrow with our Pro, Pro-Am, and Am divisions set to line up in a absolute battle. This is going to be a wild one. This is going to be a great one, and we're in for an absolute treat. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us. And like always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody. From myself, Stephen Koenig, and Cameron de Bastos.